Water's inanimate. Now, what's telling the water to push the ball upwards? This is when you start to uncover it. Now, if you've got a ping pong ball and you push it underwater or a beach ball or some other buoyant object, you can feel a push, okay? Now, that water, people will say, the water pressure's equal all round it and stuff. Well, it's not really. Because the fact of the matter is the ping pong ball, the buoyant object, moves in a particular direction, which is upwards. Now, you ask the question, what caused it? The water, you know, the ping pong ball never made itself move upwards by its own volition. So it's the water. Now, the water, what's telling the water to push the ping pong ball upwards? Because the water can't tell the ping pong ball to do anything. Okay, well, it's the vessel that's holding the water. Cool. But the vessel that's holding the water is inanimate dead matter also. So what's telling the water bottle to tell the water to tell the ping pong ball to move upwards? This is, if you ask these questions, eventually you're going to come down to, well, it's the earth pushing on the vessel, pushing on the water, that's causing the upwards push of what we call buoyancy. There's a vector to that people at Daniel Pratt avoid.
It's less dense.
Okay.
And just saying it's less dense is not a response. Density is not a force. It does not cause a motion of anything. Force is motion, okay, Daniel? So if there's a motion that happens, there's a force at play. Density is not a force because there's no motion in density. Density is a description of matter, the volume, you know, whatever conceptual way you're going to explain it. But it's not got any powers of motion.
And why is that? Why do you think that is that just is, or is there a cause of that buoyancy? What do you think?
Density.
Yeah, but
the density of the mass of the water is higher than the mass of the air inside the ball.
But the density of the water, the body of water, is the same in, you know, every direction. But yet the ball moves in a particular direction. So, you know, flat earthers should know this stuff by now because the globe earthers saying it to them for years. And this is one of the cringy aspects. I listened to a guy called Planet Peterson having a conversation with Flatzoid, and the guy brought up these very same points, and Flatzoid, being a daft flare, just went running circles and made an absolute ass of himself because they don't have a response, because their position is untenable. It's not real. And it's flawed. Even in its explanatory power, it's flawed because there is no practical reference to support it. Density is not a force. Density does not cause motion of anything.
Density is not a force in itself, sir.
Okay, I didn't say there was a force.
Well, there has to be a force, because if you're saying the ping pong ball's been going upwards, then there's a motion. So we have established that if there's a motion, something else is moving in a particular direction to cause the motion in that direction. So there has to be a force. If there's a motion, there's a force.
But you know, density. Like, I would like you to watch this video with me, please.
Pressure. Pressure. The pressure of the water. Pressure is a force, correct?
No.
Pressure.
No. Pressure you could describe as, you know, well, if something moves and impacts something else, then there's a press between the two, so there's a pressure there, but one's moving towards the other one to cause that press upon the other, right? But in the case of a free fall, then what you're talking about the pressure or the pressure gradient ceases to be. Let's hear what it says.
Okay, where does pressure come from? What causes pressure?
Force.
Okay.
Yes.
Where
and force.
Does that force come from?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question.
How?
Where does force come from? If I have
What? Okay.
If a ping pong ball is surrounded by water, it's being pressed on all sides.
Okay,
right?
But what?
Yes. Okay, Daniel. So the ping pong ball in the water is being pressed on all sides, but yet it moves upwards. Doesn't stay where it was until it's in free fall, obviously. But when we're watching a buoyant object move upwards, then the fluid that's surrounding it is equal in all directions, but yet it still has a vector, which is upwards.
But what is, yes, but not only when the water is at rest. Only when the water is at rest. When the water is at free fall, there is no pressure, there is no force, there is no buoyancy.
See, and Daniel, this is what I'm saying about Dan. I don't know him personally, to be honest with you, but I sense that there's a will to fight for the sake of fighting without really comprehending why. Because when these things are being pointed out to you, Daniel, I can see the cognitive dissonance in you. You know there's a problem here, but somehow you're doubling down for the sake of fighting against it. And I don't understand why that would be, other than you've just got a bias that you want to be true. Now that's not genuine. That's not an honest person, mate. Right? At the very least, you should be saying there's some serious questions to be asked here, especially when we get to this demonstration that's just about to be shown to you.
And would you, Daniel?
Yeah.
Give me a minute and a half. We're gonna watch a video together real quick, and then I want you to explain this video to me. Okay?
Okay.
Minute and a half. That's all I ask. Okay, and then we're gonna talk about it. Got it?
Key will only when there is a force being applied. You can test this for yourself. You cannot stretch the slinky without a force.
Now, this is important to note here, right? Because as William's explaining this, as he stretches the slinky, he's expressing there has to be a force, which is him applying motion to the slinky in order to elongate it, stretch it, whatever word you want to use. Now, Daniel doesn't have an issue here, right? Daniel knows that the reason the spring's being stretched is because there's a force present, that being that William's acting on it in a particular vector in a particular direction in order to cause it to stretch out. No highlighting, he's not saying anything here, doesn't have an issue.
This is something important to note, as it will make the following experiment much easier to understand. When we have a bottle with water and it's connected to the earth, we can experience weight and buoyancy, which are effects of a force or motion. For example, something that's more dense or heavier than the water by volume, like the slinky, will sink or appear to go down, and something that's less dense, like the ping pong ball, will get pushed to the top or float. If I glue the ping pong ball to the top of the slinky so it can be one unit, we can experience a density gradient. The more dense material at the bottom and the less dense at the top. Also, the fact that this...
Do you see the density gradient, sir?
I see it.
Yeah, so the heavier, would you contend that the heavier material sinks to the bottom and the lighter material is floating to the top?
Yes.
Do you agree? Yes, okay.
Agree.
There is a density gradient. Great.
The slinky is being stretched shows that there is a force present when connected to the earth. However, as soon as I release the bottle into free fall...
Wait, rewind that.
And this is where it's important, right? Because he just watched it a minute ago. As William, you remember that the natural state of the slinky is to be compressed. Now, when William expressed it, you know, that there has to be a force in order to stretch the slinky, then Daniel never had an issue. Now that William's saying here, the very fact that you can see that the spring is being stretched shows you that there's a force present, which is the buoyant effect, or the buoyant force, whatever you want to call it. Now he's going to try and argue that there is no force present.
Okay.
Where does it show a force?
The very fact that the spring's stretched. You just listened to him expressing it a second ago, Daniel. That if the spring has not got a force acting on it, it's not going to stretch. When it's in here, it's stretched. So there's a force present, which is buoyancy, which is an effect.
Okay, listen, just what I rewound it. Okay, let's play it. Okay, tell me when to stop and tell me what you are not understanding.
Being stretched shows that there is a force present when
Right there.
So
He just says, shows there's a force. I don't see any force.
okay.
Well, this is what I'm saying. What are you looking for, Daniel? Right, let's just go back, just to make it clear.
Can experience weight and buoyancy, which are effects of a force or motion. For example, something that's more dense or heavier than the water by volume, like the slinky, will sink or appear to go down. And something that's less dense, like the ping pong ball, will get pushed to the top or float.
To explain this video to me, okay?
Okay.
Sorry, I've jumped
Minute and a
back.
half. That's all I asked, okay? And then we're going to talk about it. Got it?
This part here. This is where Daniel needs to pay attention.
Key will only
Yes.
when there is a force being applied. You can test this for yourself.
No, that he's not saying anything. Right? There's a force present because there's William being the force, causing it to stretch. We know that the spring can't stretch on its own. So if it's being stretched, it's because there's a force present. Simple. Okay?
Okay. We're going to talk about that. So, listen. So, you see the pressure gradient, right? So, what William is saying is that the very existence of the ping pong ball and the stretch slinky is expressing, it is showing that there is a force present. You cannot see that force, but that force can be felt and demonstrated. It's not something that you see.
I don't agree with that, but okay.
Okay, well, if you don't agree with it, then what's causing it to stretch? Because if I took the spring away and I pushed that ping pong ball down, you would see the motion of the ping pong ball up through the medium. So there's a force because there's a motion. Because remember, motion is force. If there's a motion, then there's a cause externally. Okay, so in the case of the ping pong ball rising up, it's the water that's pushing it up. Now the water is being pushed by the container, which is in turn pushing the water, pushing on the ping pong ball and stretching the slinky. How else are you going to imagine this, Daniel? That it's not a force that's stretching that. How does a slinky stretch itself out without any sort of force being present? How does that work? Again, inconsistent reasoning. There's no logic or rationale to these sorts of statements, particularly when you were just shown it a second ago and never disagreed. Now you're witnessing the slinky being stretched and you're disagreeing that there's a force present. Inconsistencies, Daniel.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. You don't have to agree with it. All you have to do is observe what he is saying and what he is doing, and then come to these conclusions. Okay? So just wait. He's making a claim, and you're right. He made a claim that the very existence of the slinky and the ping pong ball, and the slinky and the ping pong ball stretching itself out inside the water bottle is expressing a pressure gradient and is expressing a force that's causing that pressure gradient. But that's a claim. He made a claim.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
Very rational, practically consistent, demonstrable claim, as we just seen a second ago, which Natch really should be pulling him up on, because William showed the slinky in its natural state and then applied a force to stretch it, because it doesn't stretch of its own volition.
Yes? Okay.
Sure.
Great. All right, let's watch the rest of the video and then we'll talk about it, okay?
Okay.
Also, the fact that the slinky is being stretched shows that there is a force present when connected to the earth. However, as soon as I release the bottle into free fall, the buoyant force of the ping pong ball and the weight of the slinky completely vanish.
Now, before we listen to any more of it, at this point here, okay, this is where alarm bells should be ringing in every practical person's mind about what's actually went on here. Because miraculously, buoyancy has ceased to be. So while William was holding that, the spring was incapable of compressing itself due to the fact that there's a ping pong ball attached to it that's experiencing a buoyant effect. The presence of force, push, pressure in a particular direction. Now, as soon as that's no longer connected to William, who's connected to the earth, and the air hasn't got the viscosity to keep that same pressure, push up on it, then miraculously buoyancy's vanished.
Vanish along with the density gradient.
Okay, so did you understand that soon as William let go of that water bottle, the slinky and the ping pong ball is shrinking right to the middle. There is no more buoyancy in that water. That's what that is demonstrating.
Nor is there any sort of weight, density, weight to any of that stuff, because the boatmate should have stayed there. So not only is buoyancy, but weight, what we call weight, has vanished.
Right there. That there is no more buoyancy in that water.
The slinky is no longer at the bottom, and the ping pong ball is no.
And I would like to think that what I think Daniel is kind of practical, and I know, Daniel, that should be affecting you, and it probably is affecting you and causing you to have serious questions about your position and what you actually think's going on. That should blow your mind.
No longer at the top. Also, the fact that the slinky is not being stretched shows that there's no force present. Acceleration requires a force. No force in free fall equals no acceleration in free fall.
Aha. So no force in free fall equals no acceleration in free fall.
But there was clearly a force in free fall.
How?
And what force is that?
The force of the ball moving to the middle and the bottom of the slinky moving to the middle.
That was the retraction of force no longer present. And the reason you know that, Daniel, is because if you now apply a force in any other direction to that vessel, the ping pong ball buoyancy will align with the direction of the force. So what you're seeing there is a removal of force. Remember, force is active motion, something moving, acting upon something. Now the air's still moving with the reference frame, but it doesn't have the viscosity to affect the solid matter. So it can't push on it anymore. So instantaneously, buoyancy, density, the gradient vanishes.
What is
Movement
causing that?
infers force.
Yes, the force that's there is the tension of the spring trying to retract back to its original position. Right? So we've got elasticity there that we can talk about, but that's not what's relevant. How come all of a sudden was that elasticity, or the retraction capability of the spring, able to overcome not only weight but buoyancy? What magic happened there, Daniel?
Okay, but sir, that movement of that ping pong ball and that movement of that slinky towards the middle is caused by what? What caused that slinky and that ping pong ball to go to the middle?
It's not.
What is the cause of it?
The question really, again, and I'm not being critical here, the question shouldn't be what's causing the ping pong ball and the stuff to go to the middle. It's what caused weight and buoyancy to vanish. That would be the question you should be asking them. Because the answer to why they went to the middle is because of the tension of the spring. Because now the gradient's gone, buoyancy's gone, weight's gone. So the only thing that's left is the tension of the spring, recoiling.
The spring of the slinky, I'd imagine.
Mm-hmm. Because in the normal state of the slinky, it wants to be contracted, right?
Right.
The normal position of the slinky. But what caused that slinky to be stretched out?
It was more dense than the water it was put in.
No.
Yeah, but slinky is more dense than the water, but the ping pong ball is less dense than the water, yes?
Right.
So when you connect the ping pong ball to the slinky, there's a pressure gradient, so it is stretched out because there is buoyancy in the water, yes? There's buoyancy, there's buoyant force in the water that causes the ping pong ball to float, and if you connect the slinky to it, it causes the slinky to stretch out because of the buoyancy in the water, correct?
Okay.
Yeah. So when William, because that water bottle is connected to me, and I am sitting on this chair that is connected to the ground, and everything is pushing up together. But when I let go, it's no longer connected to me anymore. It's no longer connected to the earth, and it loses buoyancy because there's no more upward force that's causing it to have buoyancy.
Okay,
and
but
that's
what
that demonstration.
But what force causes the water bottle to drop?
See, and this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm saying about people that just jump away ahead of themselves and don't take accountability for what they've just witnessed. Now, Nach is trying to talk about the scenario that's just happened. Daniel, being disingenuous here, I'm going to make the statement, because he knows he's in a cul-de-sac here, he's nowhere to run, jumps and shifts the goalpost to something else. No, Daniel. You have to account for what happened in that scenario and your worldview. So, what caused buoyancy to cease? Where did buoyancy go? Where did weight go? And why, as soon as it's connected back to the ground, do they magically reappear? You need to explain that, and I would love to hear it, Daniel, because at the end of the day, this shouldn't be personal, and don't try and make it personal. Just stay objective and talk about the physics of what's going on. You can recreate these things and then offer your explanations that we can have a look at, which I encourage. There's no point in trying to get into some battle of personalities. Right? So, this sort of mental gymnastics is happening more and more. With people who are flat earthers have spoke a lot in recent years about cognitive dissonance. You just witnessed cognitive dissonance right in front of you. Right? There's no cohesiveness to what's being offered, and just an avoidance to what was presented to you. Because again, if you're going to advocate for some sort of relative density disequilibrium, let me just go back here. You need to comprehend your claim, right? So, if you look at this scenario here, now, your relative density disequilibrium, stating, it's a relationship between the ratio and stuff of the object and the medium, and it's about that relationship, then in that scenario, nothing should change here when that's go into freefall, because under a stationary Earth with relative density disequilibrium, at the point of release, the claim is that everything accelerates to the Earth at the same rate, just like a globe. But what happens when we release it?
Connected to the Earth. However, as soon as I release the bottle into free fall,
wait, rewind that.
The ping pong ball.
Okay. Is expressing. So no force in free.
Agree with that, but okay.
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to.
Connected to the Earth. However, as soon as I release the bottle into free fall,
wait, rewind that.
The ping pong ball.
Okay.
Where does it show a force?
Okay, listen. Just what I rewound it. Okay, let's play it. Okay, tell me when to stop and tell me what you are not understanding.
Being stretched shows that there is a force present when.
Right there.
Okay, so
he just says shows there's a force. I don't see any force.
Okay. We're going to talk about that. So, listen. So you see the pressure gradient, right? So what William is saying is that the very existence of the ping pong ball and the stretch slinky is expressing, it is showing that there is a force present. You cannot see that force, but that force can be felt and demonstrated. It's not
okay.
You see.
I don't agree with that, but okay.
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to agree with it. All you have to do is observe what he is saying and what he is doing, and then come to these conclusions. Okay, so just wait. He's making a claim, and you're right. He made a claim that the very existence of the slinky and the ping pong ball, and the slinky and the ping pong ball stretching itself out inside the water bottle is expressing a pressure gradient and is expressing a force that's causing that pressure gradient. But that's a claim. He made a claim, right?
So relative density disequilibrium has to state that everything accelerates at the same rate, but when this is released, we're going to see that there is a change that occurs. It's not all accelerating down at the same rate. Okay, so again, inconsistencies because it's hogwash. Again, what people need to comprehend that in a globe earth or a stationary earth or whatever, you've got to have a force acting downwards and simultaneously acting upwards. Because in order for this to be reality, that would have to be the case. There has to be a force acting downwards and upwards at the same time to give you your dense material at the bottom and your buoyant effect up here. Again, inconsistent with reality. There's no force acting simultaneously in two opposing directions. It's preposterous. That's not how reality functions. So again, they've got massive problems other than just this, right? But as we witness here, relative density disequilibrium, it all accelerates down at the same rate, no change should happen.
Okay, sorry. Alright, let's watch the rest of the video and then we'll talk about it, okay?
Also, the fact that this link is being stretched shows that there is a force present when connected to the Earth. However, as soon as I release the bottom into free fall, the buoyant force of the ping pong ball and the weight of the slinky completely vanish.
Done. We see a displacement, a contraction happening as buoyancy, density, weight is no longer present. In these people's worldview, nothing should have changed there. The whole system should have accelerated in their worldview equally with every component towards their earth. It's nonsense. I wish people would snap out of this and let it fucking go and start getting on the path of actual reality. True physics. There's a couple other wee bits, but I'll get back to it the next time. Because no doubt I'm going to be going over this stuff again and again.